GSB, gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Those, to me, are the big ones now and in the future. Yes, the prices of gold and silver are going to go down when they raise interest rates, unquestionably. They also want to keep gold prices down because when gold prices spike, they know how bad things are. And the criminal organization called JP Morgan Chase was caught rigging the precious metals market. They were fined $900 million in 2019, so that they're trying to keep it down. It's going to come back when they raise interest rates and the economy goes down, because we're going to go into an economic bust, the likes we've never heard of before. And to show you their arrogance and incompetence, this is also a quote from Jerome Powell in the Wall Street Journal about inflation. It's very, very difficult to forecast and not easy to set policy. Inflation has come in higher than expected, and bottlenecks have been more persistent and more relevant. We see that they're now on track to persist well into next year. That was not expected by us, nor by other U.S. macro forecasters. That's a total lie. In every Trends Journal issue, in nearly a year, we've been warning about inflation, and then as the bottleneck process started to build up, writing about it continually. They don't know what they're doing. And if they do know what they're doing, they're lying, because they know when interest rates go up, this economy goes down. You know, we're in the fight for our lives. This is unprecedented. How they're robbing us of our freedom right in front of our faces. And it's not only the United States. Remember when the COVID war broke out, they were saying, oh, they're doing this to get rid of Trump. Get rid of Trump. They locked down Italy. Yeah, now they're showing the numbers of deaths in Italy, you know, compared to what they really said they were, COVID deaths weren't. And how about a place like Australia for a loss of freedom? Now, this is global and it's demonic. And it began in China. And the Chinese way, you must obey. And that's what we've become. We used to make fun of them for wearing these idiotic masks. Of course, when you read the directions on the box, it says right here that these masks do not eliminate exposure to the risk of any disease or infection, but you, the plantation workers of Slavelandia, must wear them. I want to get on to some economic issues here because this is very big what's going on right now. Last week, as you know, the Federal Reserve said they were going to cut back on the tapering. Tapering means quantitative easing, where they're buying up $120 billion a month of corporate and government bonds. The definition of fascism, according to Mussolini, is the merger of state and corporate powers. Here's a cat that knew a little thing about fascism. And that's what we have now. It's fascism. This is all for the corporations. The corporations are totally in charge. There is no government. It's the bankster gang. The drug dealers and morons and imbeciles called Big Pharma, Big Tech, little boys with little cojones, and the military-industrial complex. Totally taken over. Military-industrial, you mean Boeing? You mean all these big defense contractors? Isn't that a nice word? Defense contract. So it's the merger of state and corporate powers, going back to Powell, the little boy Fed bankster, saying they're cutting back on bond buying. When I went to college with Economics 101 in graduate school, they never taught me about a thing called quantitative easing or zero and negative interest rate policy. They made this crap up because they're a bunch of crapsters. They're banksters. So yeah, they're cutting back $15 billion a month out of $120 billion, but still buying up all that fake money. and putting more fake money out there. So now they're cutting back on bond buying because I want to go into the markets and what's going on. And they said they're not going to raise interest rates right away, which I thought they would have. And same thing in the UK. Last Thursday, 62% of the bets were that they were going to raise interest rates, and they didn't. And they have inflation running over 5%. So inflation is going to keep going. That's the bottom line. So the new trend is GSB. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin. They're going to keep going up as long as they keep pumping all this cheap money in. This is from today's Wall Street Journal. Global economic recovery is facing big tests. They go on to say that global economic recovery, coming back last year's deep contraction, is approaching a delicate juncture as policymakers and executives grapple with the bumpy transition from the post-pandemic reopening to the more normalized pace of growth. This is profanity. Policymakers? You mean slimeball politicians who get paid off by the corporation? Lobbyists? What, are you kidding me or what? They're dealing. They pay them off to do what they're told. Policymakers. Central banks in the United States and elsewhere are trying to chart a path that will curb inflation, but will not choke off growth. So, as they navigate the process of weakening economies off the extraordinary measures, you ready? Including rock bottom interest rates and enormous bond buying programs. The surge in U.S. consumer demand over the past years, turbocharged by trillions of dollars in stimulus, has ricocheted outward and caused disruptions to global supply chains that are now worsening and might stretch into 2022, executives said. Yes, global supply chains, that is part of the problem. The big issue here that they keep overlooking is the Federal Reserve in a country near you pumping in all of this cheap money and giving that money to people and people spending it, and that's what's driving up inflation. Are the supply chain problems real? Yes. Supply chains? Another article in the Wall Street Journal last Tuesday. CEOs rethink global production playbook. Some are moving workers in production facilities closer to home and relocating plants closer to suppliers. No kidding. How about a self-sustaining economy? How about these low-life pieces of garbage, scum crap murderers like Bill Clinton and others with NAFTA and bringing China into the World Trade Organization? And here she is, our Treasury Secretary, Facha Bruta Yellen, yep. How about these criminals that took our production away from us and brought it overseas, and now you could work for $11.50 an hour and you don't have to work in a factory. You could work at Dollar General, which never existed before. There he is. A little nothing of a slimeball. Yep, murdered people like crazy over there in Iraq. You know, Madeleine Not All That Bright, the UN ambassador at the time, with Leslie Stahl, and asking if Bill Clinton's... Take a picture of him, look at him then and look at him now. His sanctions on Iraq that killed over 500,000 Iraqi children. She said, yes, it was worth the price. But anyway, the way we solve this is a self-sustaining economy. We have all the natural and human resources we need. We don't have to buy our stuff from Vietnam, from China. Yeah, look at her. Madeleine All Not That Bright. I was on the QE2 with her. I was a keynote speaker. She was the one before me. It's a whole story going back. But anyway, she looked like the Queen of Tarts. She had a red thing on. What a arrogant freak. Took about 15 minutes to introduce her. Born in Czechoslovakia, her father was this, her mother was that. She went to this school and that school. Honors and this and that, and that and this and this and that. And then the next day they interviewed me. I was the next keynote speaker. And I said, thank you very much for that introduction. Gerald Celente, the author of Trends 2000, trend tracking, blah, 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 blah. Appears on all the major shows. I said, that's a very nice introduction. I said, but after hearing that introduction from Madeleine Albright last night, I felt like I was shortchanged. And I said, and what you also didn't mention was that I didn't graduate PS 76 in the Bronx with honors. But anyway, going back to the economy. GSB, gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Those, to me, are the big ones now and in the future. Yes, the prices of gold and silver are going to go down when they raise interest rates, unquestionably. They also want to keep gold prices down because when gold prices spike, they know how bad things are. And the criminal organization called J.P. Morgan Chase was caught rigging the precious metals market. They were fined $900 million in 2019, so that they're trying to keep it down. It's going to come back when they raise interest rates and the economy goes down, because we're going to go into an economic bust, the likes we've never heard of before. And to show you their arrogance and incompetence, this is also a quote from Jerome Powell in the Wall Street Journal about inflation. It's very, very difficult to forecast and not easy to set policy. Inflation has come in higher than expected, and bottlenecks have been more persistent and more relevant. We see that they're now on track to persist well into next year. That was not expected by us, nor by other U.S. macro forecasters. That's a total lie. In every Trends Journal issue, for nearly a year, we've been warning about inflation, and then as the bottleneck process started to build up, writing about it continually. They don't know what they're doing. And if they do know what they're doing, they're lying, because they know when interest rates go up, this economy goes down. And we're in the fight for our lives. I can't imagine what's going on in this world. I'm going to be 75 years old this month. And I'm saying to myself, boy, I'm glad I'm not a young guy. I would hate to grow up now. This isn't my kind of life. They suck the joy and beauty out of life. It's gone. It's gone. Inflation is real. They lied about it. Powell's been saying inflation wasn't going to go up, and then it became from temporary to transitory. And now they're admitting it keeps going up, and yet they haven't raised interest rates because they know that when they raise interest rates, this economy goes down. It's been artificially inflated with all this cheap money. And Gregory Mannarino has a great article in this week's Trends Journal that'll be out tomorrow night on what to expect in the markets, and he's been dead on with them. And really way ahead of the trends on it. So the reality is that they're going to keep this cheap money. Again, current events form future trends. And what I do each day as a trend forecaster, I read the news, underline the salient points, and see what's going on. So when you say there's going to be a slowdown, and when they raise interest rates, it's going to get worse. This is from today's Wall Street Journal. Economists predict modest boosts to growth. And they talk about the infrastructure package, and it's not going to do much at all. And it's not an infrastructure package. It's only $550 billion of that trillion plus has gone to the infrastructure and not even into the real infrastructure, because it's going into airports and power facilities as well, and broadband. The roads are a mess. I was just down in New York City yesterday, drove back, and the roads it's a pothole, steel all over the place, one town after another. One town after another. $550 billion over 10 years. Nothing. What's the military budget? What was it, 7 billion? No, excuse me, 788 billion? And they're dumping chump change into the infrastructure. So going back to the economy, inflation, oil prices were down, now they're back up. They're hitting back to $84 a barrel. Copper prices are going up. Wheat prices, one after another. We're going to see more inflation. They're going to have to raise interest rates. GSB, gold, silver, Bitcoin. They had an election over here in New York. This guy Adams won. You know what he wants to do? He wants to make New York City the crypto capital of the world. That's right. He wants to teach the schools crypto. He wants schools to be teaching about crypto. It's not going away. It will only go away when the government prohibits it. They're going to prohibit it when the coins go digital, because they're not going to want competition then. But we're years away from that. But they could change it like that. And they will, I believe, when the economy crashes. Because they'll blame it on things like that, just like they did when Franklin Delano Roosevelt became president in 1933 and called in all the gold. Did it boop, like that. They'll do it like that, but I don't see that coming right now. And then you see the other things going on. Again, the current events form future trends. Marketers add NFTs to toolbox. State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company rolled out an augmented reality treasure hunt last week targeting football fans. The latest company to use non-fungible tokens as the way to reach potential customers with a new medium. You heard about the metaverse that Zuckerberg is talking about. It's real. This is the Industrial Revolution began in the early 1800s. The Luddites fought it because it took the craftsmanship away from the individual person. And now they're doing it again. They're taking the beauty out of life. They're digitizing it. It's not real anymore. So going back to these digital coins, this is the future. The Luddites had it right. Look what used to happen when I was a young guy. You know, they had that rally over there where those people died listening to rap. Rap? Used to be people like Ella Fitzgerald, Count Basie, Duke Ellington. When American music was, the jazz was hot. Great rock and roll, rhythm and blues. And now down to nothing. Synthesized crap. And that's where all this is going. Synthesized crap. And that's why we have to unite. You know, people ask me, Gerald, what could change this? You know what could change it? A renaissance. And that's what I believe we need. We need to bring back what made this country the land of opportunity that they've stolen away from us. And the way you could do that is by joining together. And as you know, I started the church, the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. freedompeacejustice.com. And we're also offering members of the congregation medical vaccine exemptions. And they're the top of the top. And the comments we're getting, everybody loves them. Global food prices surge as inflation spreads. Firms expect supply woes to linger. Again, not making this stuff up. You saw the underlining things. Those are the salient points of the articles. That's what we concentrate on, the truth and trends. We look at current events forming future trends. So then you keep looking at these numbers. Wheat price rally signals food inflation. You been to the store lately? Emerging markets miss out on 2020 equity rally enjoyed by developed world. This is from Financial Times. So the emerging markets, they're hurting now, and it's going to get much worse as inflation goes higher. Again, making connections between different fields. What's out of the news is, hey, you see what's going on with that coup over there in Sudan? Oh, what's a Sudan? Is that like a Yemen? I don't know what that is. Oh, those are those countries over there where wars are being. And in Yemen, the war that brought to you by Obama in Saudi Arabia. Now that's only about 10 million people are in starvation. Yeah, that one, but we won't talk about that. You know, all the people dying of COVID. Anyway, rebels advance toward Ethiopian capital. Again, we were writing about this Ethiopian war that was launched back last year, about a week ago last year, early November, by the new prime minister, who was a Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner like Obama, the murderer that destroyed Libya and got that guy Gaddafi out of there and turned the richest country in Africa into one of the poorest. And I'm putting all the trends together. What else does this mean? Well, Ethiopia is the second largest country in Africa. There's a civil war going on, launched by a piece of crap prize president because the Tigrayans, he said, had an election and they weren't supposed to because of COVID mandates. That was his excuse. The Tigrays were in charge and they were a minority. And again, I'm not taking sides here, but they were a minority of the population in Ethiopia, and they ran the joint for a couple of decades. Anyway, refugee crisis like we've never seen before. Put the pieces together. I'm telling you what's going on with inflation. You read the articles coming from the Financial Times telling you about the emerging markets submerging. Interest rates are going up in other countries. What does that mean? You're going to start seeing it's out of the news again. Oh, the migrant crisis, the refugee crisis in America is over. It's not in the news anymore. And what happened, I'm going back to Libya, because Libya, when Gaddafi, before he was killed, he warned the Europeans, you take me out, you're going to have a refugee crisis like you can't believe. He was prohibiting the people from coming out of Africa and getting out into Libya and going across. And when they killed him, poof, poof. Oh, then there's the other wars that Obama started and supported in Syria. Oh, they only have 5 million refugees. It used to be a great tourist destination. So putting all the trends together, this thing's going to get very ugly very quick. Another thing, going back to the cryptos, K-pop, that's that big South Korean. It's you know, they're the superstars over there. And they're partnering with their biggest crypto exchange. And they're operating to sell a non-fungible token related to the band. So I'm telling you, go back to the metaverse. This is all connected. It's only going to get worse unless we have a renaissance to change this. You know, here's that other article I was telling you about. New York Mayor-elect Eric Adams announced plans to take his first 3 paychecks in Bitcoin, saying that he would make his city the center of cryptocurrency industry. It's not going away. And the banks, yeah, it's one after another. You know, they had that big climate change meeting. And of course, they just said it was a lot of baloney, which of course it was. Again, not taking sides on it, but it was baloney. And then they had a big rally of some 40,000, 100,000, it says. The climate exchange demonstration Friday in Glasgow, organizers were hoping to attract up to 100,000 people in Saturday's event. I don't know how many they got, but they had a lot. How come I didn't see the cops beating up these people? The COVID cops, where were they? What hypocrisy. You saw what they did in Germany in Leipzig last week. But they're beating up people everywhere. But they didn't beat them up over there. In Italy, in Trieste, beating the people up. But it's okay for these people to protest like it is for Black Lives Matter. And I remember when Black Lives Matter were protesting in 2020, and they were doing it right here in Kingston, and nobody bothered them. And then when I had the 4th of July rally, how dare I was criticized in the news. How could I do this? Threatening people's lives. Yep, there you go. Look at these guys beating up old people, women. Look at them. Look at them. But it's okay to have climate change marches. That's all right. I want to show you how bad things are getting and why we have to change it. This is from today's Wall Street Journal. All right? Look at the crap that you pay for. What does this thing cost? $5. $5 for this thing. The Trends Journal is $2 a week for 100 and something pages with information you don't get anywhere else. Don't be that awkward. Don't be that awkward colleague. As people go back to the office, they find the rules and boundaries have changed. Here's a guide to the new workplace etiquette. Before, it was an automatic to reach someone's hand when meeting or grabbing a seat next to a coworker in a conference room. Says Dana Brownlee, founder of Professionalism Matters. Is your relationships the same? Are they somehow different? After not seeing the people for so long, asks Heather Young or Val or whatever her name is, or the management, blah, 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 blah. They go on to saying hi. Don't assume someone wants to hug you or even give you a handshake, says Daniel Post. Comfortable social distance? Yep. They're making this crap up. Wearing a mask? Let's get this straight. If you're wearing a mask, you're safe. Why are you forcing me to wear a mask? If you're vaccinated, you're safe. Why are you telling? Hey, look at this. Look at this stupid story in the Wall Street Journal. $5. $5 an issue to read this stupid crap. Look at this. It's a cartoon. It's a cartoon. All right? And that's how low the people have sunk into cartoon land. You're vaccinated, you're safe. Why bother me? You're wearing a mask, you're safe. Why bother me? We must unite. United we stand, divided we fall. And if you want to read history before it happens, there's no magazine like the Trends Journal. And if you want a vaccine exemption, religious one, nothing like the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. freedompeacejustice.com. Become a member, get your vaccination exemption.
And so, believe it or not, I think you all get it. And it literally, I guess I know you all know it. I'm sorry to go on so long. Thank you.